Welcome to Sisterpreneurs Talks, where we go behind the scene of both entrepreneurial journeys. I'm Bianca.
And I'm Jennifer. Today we'll be diving in the story of Barbara Lax, the visionary and founder of Little Greenhouse, a network of multilingual, eco-conscious childcare centers across Switzerland, which today employs over 400 employees, has turnover over 24 million Swiss francs, and helps thousands of families around us, which is absolutely incredible. Barbara, welcome. We're super happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy too.
Wonderful. Barbara, I'd like to start with the very beginning. Take us back to the beginning. What was the spark that made you think, okay, if this thing doesn't exist, I'm actually going to make it myself?
I think there was a combination of several events that came together. One thing was I was in the corporate world, but I wasn't really seeing the impact of my work, and I wanted to do something more tangible. I had just had my daughter, and I wanted to go back 100% to work. I was convinced it's the right thing, also to set the example, also for her, that you can have both. But I wanted to do something useful with my time, and so there was a certain level of frustration that I wasn't really spending my time well enough, and my talents and my ideas. And then I had this idea about childcare, and it really was by coincidence with some friends when we just were brainstorming what we would do as a startup. But when I had the idea afterwards, I thought, okay, why not? It's sometimes you have an idea and you think, okay, if I will not do it now, I will regret it the rest of my life. And for me, that was that feeling.
So you felt the moment was right for...
Yeah, I just felt, I think my frustration level was high enough, and then there was this opportunity, and I thought I just have to jump on it. And even if it fails, I would regret it less than if I would have never tried. And I was really sure about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you mentioned you had a different professional background. You come from the corporate world. You're an engineer. You come from the corporate world. You work in this big company that does manufacturing and construction. So shifting from this sector to education was a very big jump, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't really a jump because I didn't quit my job and start this. I was really starting in steps. Then I started some market research, and so I kept on working full-time still in my old job for 2 years while I was starting up, business plans, and then I started to look for services, and suddenly I had to sign a rental contract. I hadn't even the financing all cleared out, so it was a whole mess. And because I also had my daughter, who was a toddler then, and I had my full-time job, I was traveling a lot. It was an international company. And so, things just went super, super fast, but it was in parallel, so I didn't have to jump really. At some point then I had to, but that came more naturally, really.
Yeah, I can feel from your voice.
To me, it's incredible that the person who was working in a completely different field then just one day said, okay, I'm doing this and I'm going to make it happen. So we heard the name Little Greenhouse, but maybe not all of us know how Little Greenhouse exactly operates. So my question to you, Barbara, is, because I am a mom of 2 small kids which are actually in creche here in Switzerland, how can you explain to me the difference between the Little Greenhouse and the kind of classic Swiss childcare centers we are used to here?
Yeah, so I think the difference is in the concept. All our sites are following the same concept, and it's a very detailed concept. So there is several elements to it. One is the multilingual approach. I'm from Bavaria, from the south of Germany, and I just wanted to make sure that my daughter continues to speaking German with me. It would have been for me a nightmare if suddenly she would answer back in French, So that was one idea. I thought, okay, how can parents like me do that? How can we make sure that child stays open to his mother tongue? My daughter's dad speaks Spanish to her. So I just felt it's such a gift, and how can we preserve that? So the multilingual approach actually it shows also that the brain develops actually in the first year after birth, and even already in the belly. That's actually where most of the language developments are taking place. And so it makes a lot of sense to already talk with the babies in several languages. And so that was one of the elements. Nature for me was always very important. I grew up in the mountains with lakes. I was outside all the time, all the strengthening the immune system, but also creating a strong link with nature for your mental health, for your development. All of that I think is very interesting. So it's a very strong element there. We have our own vegetable gardens. We go outside every day at any weather. And then there is an aspect of partnering with parents, because I really wanted to make sure that I don't feel judged, if maybe it's not me who's picking up or bringing my daughter, because I also had an au pair and the dad. And so I wasn't showing up at the childcare centers very often. And I felt people really didn't understand, and they thought I was a bad mom, or maybe it was me who was telling that to myself. And so I just wanted to create an environment where everybody could be themselves, and where it's like a familiar environment where people are really creating this strong link, with the educators, and there's no judgment. And so those were the three first pillars, but then we developed all the neuroscience part later on with the experts, because I'm not the expert. I just gave some ideas, and then the experts developed the whole concept.
This is incredible. Coming from a person who comes from construction world, you guys developed a childcare with these extra incredible things, which I can really relate to as a mom, right? I have also children with 3 languages. I always take them outside, but this is not done in the classical childcare center. So I think it's absolutely incredible what you guys did. And, there is no wonder that this is working. And I guess my next question is, when it comes to the booming business, it came out of it, it's obviously helping thousands of families, but you've turned it also into business. And my question to you is, do you think it's so successful because of this differentiation next to the classical Swiss childcare centers? Or is it because you simply, with your entrepreneurial mind, found a gap in the market where the demand was obviously so much higher than the supply, and you just went for it and made an incredible business helping so many people around the world, or in Switzerland, one day around the world, sorry.
Bring it on.
Bring it on, exactly. I like these things. So is it the gap or is it the differentiation, I guess, is my question.
Well, the short answer is both. The longer answer would be, it looks like this amazing success, and yes, it has been growing, and but when you're inside, you of course always see all the struggles, and it is a difficult environment, because it's highly regulated. But then also there's public offers and there's private offers, and each canton has completely different functionings, and partnerships need to be established. I had to win the credibility of all the stakeholders, the employees, the authorities, and so on. So I was probably very overly optimistic and naive when I started it, and I always thought big, because I come from this corporate world, and of course I wasn't there just to start one childcare center. I wanted to revolutionize the childcare center from the beginning, and it is much harder than what I thought, So it's not, I wouldn't say it was suddenly this great success. It's rather that I had this huge idea, and then the reality hit, and then, eventually, we're growing and we're getting where we wanted to go. But yeah, I mean, there is a need, and we do have a good concept, and we have a good reputation, and I think a nice culture. So we have a place in the market, but it's not like a self-running model or something like that.
Yeah, sure. But also, I love this from the entrepreneur world, right? We see it all as very successful business because you're existing, you have a couple of centers, but this is the part of their entrepreneurship. On the inside, it's never, as easy. But in my opinion, this is a huge success already. So you're very humble, but I think, and I know there are struggles and it's not easy inside, of course, but I think it's truly an incredible thing you've built here out of an idea which was in your head only, basically.
But let me explore a little bit more this part of the idea. You said, we had the idea, I talked with some friends, and then reality hits. So let me walk me through the process. Like, what exactly happened? What were the 3 things that you're like, okay, now I'm going to do that?
Okay, I think the beginning was really easy because in the beginning it was, okay, there was this idea, I was very passionate about it, I just started to talk with people. I felt a bit uncomfortable because I felt like I was playing this role, I told myself, well, fake it until you make it. I had to meet all these people and I had to pretend I knew what I was talking about. And sometimes it went really well, like real estate people, they were all happy to have me, and childcare is the best thing you want to have in your big building and so on. So there was open doors, but then when went to authorities, they're like, we don't even want to talk with you. We don't have time. They wouldn't even like spend any minute. It was like I was desperate. I was crying in my car. I was so angry, and I thought, okay, but there is this need, and then they don't even talk with me, and I have, all this energy, and so there were really difficult moments and really easy and good moments. Like finding the team was rather easy. Everybody liked the idea. Everybody thought it was a great idea to work with somebody that's not from that space. But then managing the team, and having somebody that's leading the whole thing and that has the energy to actually stick there also when it gets tough, that was difficult. Same thing with financing, the banks. I mean, they were all telling me, oh my God, this is a great idea and this is totally needed and so on. But when it really got to, give me a loan or help me with the financing, it was very complicated. And actually what happened, what happened was I had knocked on a lot of doors of banks and I spent a lot of time, and everybody's like, yeah, this is great. And then in the end, yeah, sorry, but my boss and you don't have the right metrics and this and that. And then there was this one bank, local bank, and the guy said, yeah, no problem, we're going to do it. And I just believed him. And I signed the 10-year rental contract, trusting on his word. While same story, 1 week he came back, he's like, sorry, but we can't. We actually had this meeting and we can't. And I already had signed the contract.
They said yes, you signed the contract,
exactly.
And then they said, sorry, we can't.
But it was my fault because there wasn't a written, like they said yes, but I had nothing written. And so, then I was just like too naive. I was just believing it and I wanted to believe it, I guess. I then had the help of, I don't know if you know the Bank Alternative, it's like an alternative bank, and they have like a program, or at least they had 15 years ago, especially for women, especially for sustainable and social projects. And they then helped me out like last minute with a lot of constraints. I had to put our house on, guarantee and stuff. I mean, so I had to really, I pulled out all the money I had, of course. But in the end, I found solutions. But some things went easy, some things are really difficult.
All-in bet, right? Sometimes you need to take the leap and say.
Yeah, and I felt like it wasn't planned like that from the start, but because I was in the situation where I had this rental contract signed and I didn't know enough. Now I think today I would say, yeah, so what? You just, if you can't pay the rent, you just like cancel the contract. They can't hold you 10 years responsible for that, or you just whatever, get the company to go bankruptcy or anything. I know now what you can do, but when you're just new, you're thinking, oh God, I'm dead. There is no way out. So yeah, I was just going.
And this was to open up the first crash?
Yes, exactly. So the most difficult time, I would say, was the first and the second crash, because the first crash, there was a huge interest. People were lining up for the first information evening and so on. But in the end, we only had 40% fill rate, like when we started, because, it was something new and people wanted to test it and try it. And I hadn't counted that in, I had the full staff already, and we were losing money every month. And I had already lined up the second opening in March, and so and also started to hire the whole team there. And again, we didn't have a lot of families in the beginning. Then it filled up, but so there was this really huge financial gap, plus a team that wasn't fully functioning yet, and the parents that were not fully trusting us yet, and I was still in my old job, and I still had a small child at home, and so yeah, it was a lot.
But you kept going, and you kept scaling, and then there was another crash, right? And then today you have how many across Switzerland? Crashes?
13.
13. So this is incredible. So the first two were the most difficult,
yes,
it sounds
by far.
like. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think actually was the kind of secret sauce or the moment where you felt like, wow, now we're scaling and it's working, especially in a business which is childcare, as you say, you need trust from the parents, and it's very sensitive, it's very personal. So what was the moment when you felt like, we got it, we're scaling and it's working and we can keep going?
Well, I always thought, like, there was this very first moment where I thought, okay, now this is it, and I'm gonna die, basically, because the business is dying, so I'm gonna die, and so but from then on, what actually really was, I guess, the shift was that I found resources within the organization. I found people that are still there today with me, that started carrying a lot of the responsibility, that really wanted this to work. So people stopped watching me doing and failing, but they started helping me out. And I think what helped was I was rather transparent. I guess I had no choice. People knew that I was really not knowing anymore how to find solutions. So we found solutions together. So that was one thing. And then then the business model started to work, and our concept started to prove, and then and there was a word to mouth and so on. So I think that was a big shift. From then on, I always knew we could continue to grow, and of course there's always ups and downs, and it's not like everything's cruising all the time. But from then on, I knew we could continue to develop and grow because we have something solid, we have a team that supports it, we have a concept that is appreciated. And then we started also to have our first experiences with failing at certain elements. And I think we built a lot of resilience within our team, and that's still there today. And so I think, I don't know, I was just talking with a colleague today, but I said, okay, if we cannot do it, nobody can, because we're so strong. I think that we really have a lot of mental strength in our team, and that helps a lot because it's never everything good, and there will always be problems.
Yeah, I love this story, how you were saying it sounds like the beginning was so difficult. And this is what we were talking about, the entire entrepreneurial journey, because a lot of people hear just the successes, but then, it is just the cover of the magazine. Under it, there is so many other things. And you were telling us, this was difficult, I got loan in that. But actually, you guys don't know this, but Barbara's business was awarded by Financial Times as one of Europe's fastest growing businesses for 3 years in row. So that's an incredible achievement. So eventually it basically started to move, and today this is happening. And I don't know how you feel today, but from what I've been hearing or reading about your business, it almost gives a feeling it's a bit of a movement. So I wonder, did you ever have a feeling after all this fighting and struggling that eventually you got to the point, wow, I made it and it's actually bigger than me. This is becoming a movement.
Yes, and this can be a good thing, but it can also be a problem. And I think yes, there is some of that, and because we really have we have families that have been with several children with us, and that love us, and that met their best friends there, and they're still talking about it. And I mean, my daughter was at Little Green House. I still have friends from there. It's such an important time for parents, I think. So to just bond, and I think we created this community, and in some of our sites it works so well that the whole team was like best friends and they went out to party every night and like we had this amazing dynamics. But it can also become a problem because, you know, then there come new people and then there comes a turnover, and then there is this myth about how amazing, you know, the team is and so on, and then everybody needs to find their place, and there's always new people coming and young people coming. And if the culture is too strong, I think it can also, especially now that people don't want to just live for their job and for the company, it can also become a problem. And I think I saw it in this previous organization where I worked, in this corporation. They had a very strong culture, very, very strong. And they did everything so that people would really spend their free time with their colleagues. And you would travel a lot. And basically that was like your family. And so I wanted to create the same thing. And I think I succeeded at some point, but I now think it's maybe not what's needed anymore, really. I mean, we still need a strong culture, but a movement, maybe not. I don't know, because then people feel obliged to give everything, and that is not what's needed, I guess.
Somehow we need kind of a separation as well.
Yeah.
Detachment, because it's still like it's your professional life and it's different, supposed to be different from your personal life. And talking about this, actually, this is the question I wanted to ask you, because being an entrepreneur, I mean, entrepreneurship is gritty, unpredictable. As we said, we kind of picture all of the best moments, but then the bad moments are kind of in the shadow. What was the most challenging moment for you? And was it more professional or more personal, or was very linked, and this actually changed your perspective to what you're kind of saying now?
Well, my most difficult moment was definitely in the beginning, because, you know, I was running into a wall in terms of my own energy as well. I just until then compensated everything with more work, less sleep, you know, just figuring it all out on my own.
Formula for destroyment.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I didn't know it then. I thought, well, whatever, I have enough energy, I have enough resilience, I'll just like work through it. And then at some point I hit the wall. And I think, probably it has nothing to do with what I just said about culture and movement. I think it's just that you have to respect, you know, what people are looking for in their jobs. They don't maybe all look for a tribe, you know, which is respectable. It's okay. I like to create tribes, but that's okay. And, you know, you have to find a balance. But for me, the most difficult moment was really this moment where, I was just like burned out. And
was it the moment you thought, I'm just not gonna make it, I can't make it?
Yeah, I thought I'm dead. I have to die. No, really. I mean, it was like I was.
But you're alive, Barbara. You're alive. You're beautiful, and you're here with us today. So you made it.
That's the whole. Like it was. I mean, that's the truth, right? I mean, I think that it's also important to talk about it, because that's also a thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs they hit rock bottom at some point, and they think because they kind of think the company will die, they will die, and it's real, you know. And actually, they say that there is this. Like black hole or tunnel or whatever that everybody has to go through at some point if you're creating something that's bigger than what your energy is and what your talents are and whatever is everything you have to grow. Well, first you probably have to go through that. I don't wish it to anybody, but I think it's good that people know it, because I have heard it so many times, and it's good to hear that other people experience the same, because then you don't feel like such a big loser, you know.
Yeah, you just you don't feel alone.
Yeah, and you feel like, okay, if it has happened to most of the entrepreneurs, then maybe I can continue, and it means I can still be an entrepreneur. Because what I thought, and I told myself, is like, okay, now nothing is working. You're just not a good entrepreneur. You have to go back to your corporate job, because you cannot do it. You're not good enough. And I think it's important then when I understood, okay, no, it's part of the process, and I cannot be good enough until I failed several times. I think it's really important to to know that.
You must have had a lot of strength to go through that moment, but thank you for sharing, because I'm pretty sure this is a very deep thing. I mean, you kind of need to rationalize, okay, this is work, and as you said, if I want, I can go back to my previous job, I can go back to corporate, but at the same time, I feel you have this movement for impact and responsibility as well, no? Inside, that you wanted to have an impact on the society. So you kind of couldn't go back to corporate at one point.
Well, I mean, to be totally honest, it was from in my head, it's all what you're thinking about yourself. It's not what really was there out there. I don't know if I could have gone back to corporate, but I thought I cannot, because I left it behind. They would never take me back. Nobody else wanted me. I'm a loser. But then I also had 15 employees already at that time. It's not like I can just say and I don't know how many families, like 30, 40 families already in Gland. And it's not like you can just say, okay, guys, sorry, but it's just too much. I just go back, whatever. I
don't feel it anymore.
No, it's not possible. And you have the loan, and you have, put your house on it. And it's just like, even if I think at that point, if somebody would have come and said, look, it's a bad dream, you can go back to your corporate job. It didn't happen. I would have been happy at that moment, because I was so desperate, And then, of course, you just work your way through, and then you see, okay, no, actually, there are people that help you. I can manage my energy. There's a lot of things I can do. But at that moment, it wasn't a conscious decision. It was just, I felt like I'm stuck. I have to find a solution.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. This is such a deep thought.
And I want to ask, on the positive note, was there a moment where you thought, I did it, I made it?
I think, you have to remind yourself very actively, because when you're in the middle, of course, you always see all these things that don't go yet, and where you did mistakes and all of these things. But every time I get a good feedback, like I just talked to some mom that had her children with us, and every time somebody says, oh, I had all my 3 children with you, and it was great, and it helped us, or, it was, I don't know, it was such a nice memory or something like that. That makes me really happy, because then I say, okay, I had an impact. This is what I wanted. I wanted to leave the corporate world. I wanted to have an impact. I wanted to do something useful with my time. Now we had thousands of families already going through Little Green House, and I'm sure many of those, it really helped them that both could stay in their job, that they could stay financially independent, that there was a better, balance in their lives, maybe better education for their children. And so many benefits to society, and that nobody can take away. And it's not something that I see on a daily basis, but I do actively remind myself of that, because you have to. And I think also what I learned is to being really kind to myself, not telling myself anymore that I'm a loser and I should have never done it, but rather congratulating myself. Look, all the things you already did and all the people that work there. So you need to do it, because I'm on my own. I don't have a co-founder, and so I need to also get the strength from somewhere, and that's what I do. Yeah,
that's so important. And it's funny that a woman who is being invited by all kinds of institutions to talk about her entrepreneurial journey ever even thinks that she's a loser, So it's funny, because we don't see you this way. Everybody wants to talk to you about your project. Everybody sees the benefits you give to the society, the impact you have. But it's so important to share this, that deep inside, it really does not feel this way for the true entrepreneur. So I hope all the entrepreneurs who are listening to this are like, okay, so I'm not alone in this. Other people think I'm successful, and I'm the only one who probably thinks I'm a loser. So I need to say to myself, congratulations, be proud, you're doing a good job. So I think it's really important you're mentioning this.
Yes, I think it's a journey. As I said, it's not like that was how it was in the beginning. I really felt like a failure, and it was the biggest mistake of my life and so on, because I had no solution and I just hit a wall. But since then, I think that's the mind shift where I'm realizing, okay, no, you have to learn, and you're learning, and you're doing a lot of good things, and there are a lot of mistakes, but also a lot of good things, and to actively actually, encouraging yourself. I think that that is something that everybody needs to learn, I guess, in an entrepreneurial journey.
Which is, as you mentioned, right? It's often lonely journey, because in corporate jobs you have colleagues and you're a bit more connected. So you said that you felt a bit lonely during your journey here and there. Did you have to build some support networks as you went along the way, where, you know, when you had an idea, you kind of could cross-check it with them, stay grounded, or just in general, like here, okay, go for it, you got it, and we are here to support you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I had my friends who helped me always when I was wanting to die. They took me out on trips and drinks and stuff. So that was really important, and thank you. And then what I also had was, it's like a startup accelerator. I don't know if you know them, they're called JennyLem, and they have been really precious to me. So they have been accompanying me the first 3 years, and they gave me like coaching and networking and exposure to press, and that was very precious, because I had a coach there and I could just like tell him everything. I've sometimes felt like he needed vacation after having talked with me, but I still I just dumped it all, and then it was out, and I could be totally honest with him. So that's great, and I still continue to support them. I'm actually on their board now, because I think they're doing an amazing job. And by the way, I think I told you guys, but they're also trying to help more women entrepreneurs, and I think that's a really nice thing to do, maybe to put forces together and to work on that. Yeah, that's amazing.
It's I'm glad you're mentioning this women entrepreneurs thing, because as you know, Bianca and I stand behind initiative called Sisterpreneurs. So we are a group of women entrepreneurs who meet each other to dump these things on each other, as you say, because I think women have this tendency to share with each other a bit more. Also, we need to sometimes validate our ideas and just talk through things a bit more. So if back in that time, Sisterpreneurs would have existed, would you, if you would get the opportunity, join a community like this? And what do you think about these communities in general?
I think it's great, and it's so needed. I think it's really important to like you say, to be open, to be honest, to support each other, to listen. And it's true that I also feel that sometimes you're more open to share also your problems when you feel safe. And so I'm also like mentoring some younger women and so on, because I think it's so important that you hear these things. And I would have definitely joined your organization. I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you. I think the audience also is super inspired by your story today. So I guess it's a butterfly effect. You get inspired, you inspire, etc., etc. Now, changing topic completely. You're an entrepreneur, you are a mom, but you're also an athlete. Like, you have been doing how many Ironman?
Yeah, I'm a punctual athlete, so I'm not all the time an athlete, but when sometimes, I'm having this idea. So yeah, I did 3, I finished 2.
Wow, okay. So you are officially Iron Woman. So Ironman, it's a global competition, extreme form of triathlon. So basically it's 3.8 kilometers swim, 180 kilometers bike, and then a full marathon, 42 kilometers run. All of it together. So just to be clear, it's not like one day after the other.
And I just want to say, as a mom, plus Barbara was doing it when she was a mom, and all these work things next to it, which I don't understand, but I am absolutely impressed.
So, we're all impressed here in this room, probably. My question for you is, first of all, how was it possible? Like, even from a time perspective, like, how could you dedicate so much time, of course, to the train? Because it's not only the competition day, like a full training for months, I guess, the first one. And second question would be, what did the sport teach you? Like, what soft skills did you learn from sports that you actually translated into your business professional life?
Yeah, well, the first one I did in 2003, and so I was still in the corporate world, and I could go running at lunchtime, swimming at lunchtime. I did the cycling in the weekend. I was like, I had
you make it sound very easy, but
well, yeah, but I mean, it was not like I didn't have any child. I had like a long distance relationship, but very virtual, so I could do my bike rides whenever I wanted, and so that was. And there, I think why I did it for the first time, I had a friend who did it, 2 friends actually, and I just felt like I needed some kind of challenge. And I think it's also because I wasn't fulfilled enough in my daily job, I guess, so I needed something. The second one I did the year after, and that one I very poorly prepared, and I actually had to stop just 8 kilometers before the end, unfortunately, which was a big disappointment.
8 kilometers.
Yeah, but at some point you just it's just too much. And then actually the next one I did in 2021, and that was after the COVID, and it actually was during the COVID that I started to go running again.
Wonderful. And what are the skills that you learned through sports that you were able to translate to your life, professional life?
I think that when I had this very difficult moment in 2013, I reminded myself, that I can keep going even if I think I'm dead, I mean, that's pretty much what you do at the end of the marathon at Ironman. You just keep on going even though you think you don't feel yourself anymore. And I guess it helps when you know that you can keep going and that there is an end and there is a goal, and you'll manage even if you think you can't.
So it's this concept of resilience that we discussed
yes,
before.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Totally. And and I think keep going even if it hurts. Yeah.
Wonderful. Even if it hurts. Even me and Jennifer, we did our first triathlon this year.
Well done.
It hurt, but we finished, but it was the small one. So entrepreneurs, if you haven't done anything like this and you feel like you're dying, go do Ironman on top of this so you can see that you actually will survive it. I guess that's the takeaway from this. We are going until the end of our podcast, and I would like to ask or close this by asking you advice. First, advice for people who are listening to us. First would be what would you say to yourself those 14 years ago when you started your journey? And second would be what would you say as an advice to yourself to, how to power through these difficult moments and everything you went through? And second would be to my friends who are in corporations, because I have a lot of friends who work, high-level jobs in corporations, and I often hear, I really want to start something on my own. I actually secretly have this dream, but often they don't know how to start, where, or even if. So what would your message be to those?
Maybe start with the second one, because sure. That's an easier, I guess. I really, for me, it was clear. I was so passionate about this idea at that moment, and I was probably so fed up. The pain level was so high and the excitement level was so high that I just felt it was like being in love. It was like, oh my God, I totally have to do this, like no matter what, and I'm just gonna do it. And then of course, I guess I'm a bit more of a risk taker, so I did a lot of things that, in the hindsight, I wouldn't do the same way anymore. So that's probably what I would tell myself now, take it easy, don't take too many risks in the beginning, make sure you're sleeping, stuff like that. Make sure you understand what you actually want to do in the end with your organization. Don't just go along. But to those people in corporates, I think, you will know when it's the right moment. You will know, because I think it's not something where you have to force yourself, really. It's because you're so passionate, at least that's what I felt, and that's what I often hear. You will be so passionate about what you want to really do that there is no other way, and then you're going to do it.
Do you think people should keep their job and
Yes.
have this project as a
Totally,
side?
absolutely. I would definitely always do it again. I would always keep my job because it gives you at least a little bit of safety so you can go out and take more risks. And, you always try to balance the risks. So if you have still your income and you still have a little bit of stability, I mean, I was in a fortunate position because I had a job that I knew inside out. And so I could do it and nobody really realized that I was doing other things at the side, But that's often the case, people know their job inside out. So if you make the decision for yourself and you say, I'll just stay at the level where they just don't fire me, where just like, and then you can go for a while, you can do this for 2 years, 3 years, and that buys you the time to build something up. And then you don't have to, because if you're all in, you might very fast be all out again, because you're at the end of the resources and it's just too much. But if you have this balance, I really believe it's a great way to build something up.
So you're basically recommending to people to do your job, do what you're asked, but give your passion and energy to your dream, not to somebody else's dream.
Well, it depends, if you shared like in the beginning when I was in the corporate world, I thought there were projects I was working on. I was like really hoping they would go through and I would have loved it, like renewable energy, things like that. But they didn't happen. And then I gave everything and then it didn't happen. And that happened several times. And then, of course, I thought, well, it's never going to happen what I'm actually trying to do here. So I better find something that will really happen, So that's my story. But I think if you have this idea and you really want to go for it and you can somehow manage keeping your old job, I would do it. If you can't, well, then you can't. But if you can, I would. Of course, you always feel a bit bad. You always have a bad conscience because you're not giving as much as before. But I mean, that's, I guess, part of what you have to do.
A big hello to all the CEOs of corporates who are listening to us. No, I'm kidding. No, but thank you for sharing every story is different, as you said. I've heard entrepreneurs who told me either all in or nothing. So every story is different, but thank you for sharing. This was a very powerful conversation. And we're gonna, before wrapping it up, actually, I would like to ask you, where can we learn more about Little Greenhouse?
Well, you can learn more on my podcast. I also have a podcast where I'm talking with my colleagues and I'm talking with families. So if you look in Spotify or in Apple podcasts, you just look for Little Greenhouse and you can hear more about us. And we have our own webpage, littlegreenhouse.ch. And so everywhere.
Look into website, social media, podcast, Little Greenhouse, definitely worth it. I've looked at it and I've heard it, and the stories you are sharing there are great, inspiring, and it tells you a bit more about the concept and everything. And by that, we would like to, I guess, wrap it up. Barbara, it was so amazing to have you here. I am truly honored and thankful that you shared your story exactly as it is, because the point was to show the true, raw story, not only the cover of the magazine or of the titles of the social media. And I hope the audience feels as inspired as I am today. And by that, I think we can close it up and say to our listeners, until next time, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.